Hello everyone, this is Deepak Joshi, and today we are going to take a look at another problem statement that is the variation of the problem that I have uploaded yesterday. The problem that I have uploaded yesterday was 169, yes, majority element, and today I'm doing 229 was number, majority elements too. Yes. So in this particular problem statement, we have given that I have zoomed a lot, zoomed for your kind information. Okay, given an integer array of size n, we have to find out that those elements which appear more than n by 3 times. Let us say if we have an array and we divide it into 3 parts, there will be only 2 elements that will appear more than n by 3 times. Am I right? Yes. So that means we have to return the pair. If here it says okay, the size of the array is 3. Yes, maximum 2 elements can be there which are having size greater than n by 3. One can be there, like let's say there is a array having size 9. And an element occurs 6 times and the other element occurs 3 times, so the answer will be 1. But let's say there is an array of size, let's say let's say how can I let us take an example of this particular thing, like 1 and 2. Here 2 by 3 is 0, so the maximum the elements which appears more than n by 3 times are 1 and 2. Simple. How we are going to approach this particular problem statement? Map. If anything related to frequency appears, the first brute force that comes to my mind after using two for loops is map. You can try applying that particular what two for loop code, but I do not want to write that complexity here. Let me write just the map one. Yes, how we are going to use that? For that we have to declare a map first. Let us call it map, and it is very important. Like, one tip that I wanted to provide you is, whenever you use map at any position at any point, let's say you are using map in JavaScript or in development or in competitive programming, write a comment that the first index is going to have this and the second index is going to have this. So our first index in here will contain what? The element, and the second index will contain its frequency. Just a single line comment so that you get to know while reading the code again that, oh, okay, so this map's first index contains element and second contains frequency. Simple. Now after that, what we are going to do is simple. What we are going to iterate over this particular nums array, and then we are going to have a vector that will store the final answers eventually. um Instead, like, let me just write the code how, and I'm going to explain you that parallelly. Let us make the count as n by 3, because we are going to have it as n by 3. Yes, yes, like we can do that. Or yes, okay, for now let us make the count n by 3, then I'll eventually tell you like how can we improve this particular thing. Okay, I'm going to iterate over the given array, that will be this. And then here what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to increase the count of that particular index that comes to that particular element that comes to the given index. Means, let us take an example so that we it is easy for us to iterate. Let us say for the first iteration, the element will be 3, so we are going to increase the map of 3 to 1. Yes. And for the second iteration, we are going to make mark map of 2 as 1, because it is occurring for the first time. And for the map of 3, what we are going to do is we are going to increase map of 3 to 2, because initially it was previously it was 1 and we have incremented it. All right, so this is our case. Now here parallelly what we can do is, like, you can do only this thing in the for loop, and then have another for loop to check maximum frequencies, है ना? Maximum frequency elements, and then store them in a vector. Instead, what I'm trying to do here is I will create a vector of int answers, and here I'll try to check if count is less than uh, map of nums of I, in that case, what I'll be doing is I'll be pushing my nums of I to my array. Simple. uh, does that make any sense? Listen, here the condition seems good to me. Okay, but there is an issue. Like, what's the issue? Let's say we have pushed this particular element nums of I to answer when the count, let's say there is an array having size 9 and an element occurs 5 times. For the for the fourth occurring, we have pushed it into our answer. For the fifth occurring, I'll be pushing it again to my answer. Why? Because still count will be less than the map of nums of I, frequency of nums of I. And then in again in the sixth iteration, let's say if it has a sixth occurring, I'll be pushing again the nums of I to answer, which is not a very good thing. We need to have unique values in the answer. So how we are going to do that is very simple. Trust me on that. What I'm going to do is I'll just write n by 3 plus 1, and here instead of checking like count should be less than equal to map of nums, I'll write if at any point count becomes equals to map of nums of I, means nums of I is frequency. I'll simply push that into it, and as I have discussed previously as well, like in a given array there are maximum two elements which will occur n by 3 times. So I'll have a check on that as well. If answer dot size is equals to 2, simply return answer. You can break and return after that as well. No issues with that. Like you, this will work. Where is run button? Here it is. Okay. कहीं तो नहीं हो गया, कोने कोने में खा, चोरों ने कहा खो गया, कोने कोने देखा, न जाने कहाँ खो गया. Okay, so it works. It works finally. And now, what will be our next approach, Deepak? Our next approach. So much of rising temperature. Let me check what's the temperature today. Like, mm, I'll check. I'll check. But uh, what I'll do is I'll charge my laptop. Yes, yes. Now it is charging. I think yes. Okay. So I need to focus on the next approach, that how we are going to implement or optimize it. Like here, the insertion operation is around O of login, and then we are iterating. So it overall becomes O of n login. How can we decrease that? And also decrease the space complexity as well. Like we are using a map here, so the space complexity for this particular operation will be O of n, which I want to be in constant time. How we can achieve that? Like in the previous question, I want you to go through the majority element 169, the problem statement number. I just remember that, I don't know. Yes. And why? Because I have discussed the approach of using two variables like current and element to get the maximum occurring element out of the given element, a given array having size n. Okay. We are going to use that particular approach here as well, with some modification. Like this time we are going to have two counters and two elements uh, variables, and then on the basis of that we are going to iterate our nums, basically our array. I'll do a dry run with you, but first let me try to explain that to you using code, and then I'll do a dry run with you. Yes. Yes. So let me just try to write that for you. Let me make some space. Yes. So yes. Uh, how we are going to do that is, like, first we need count. I'll say I'll have count 0, count 1, and count 2, because we are going to have maximum uh, two characters or two elements which will occur more than n by 3 times. All right. So and for each count will have element. This time I'm initializing them with int minimum and element 2. Again, I'll initialize it with int minimum. Yes. All right. And I'll have int n equals to nums dot size. Simple. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to iterate int I int I equals to 0, I less than n, I plus plus. Yes. Okay. Uh, yes. Now what I'm going to check here is, let's say if my count 1 is currently 0, I'm going to increase the count and set my element 1 to nums of I. This was the approach that we have followed in the majority element 1, question number 169. Yes. I'll do the same thing, but there is a mistake in this. I'll let you know what's the mistake and we'll update that soon. Yes. So Deepak, this should be in this way. Yes, you are right. Element 1 and it should be equal to nums of I. It's as simple as that. Yes. So Deepak, we are going to do this the same thing with the other one. Yes, you are right. If count of 2 equals to 0, simply put count of 2 plus plus and element of 2 equals to nums of I. Yes. And if what let's say if my current element is equals to nums of I, then what I'm going to do is it should not be element, it should be element 1. Let's say element 1. Then we are going to increase count 1 1, simple. Yes. And else if element of 2 is equals to nums of I, we are going to increase count 2 as okay, yes. And if nothing happens, like we are going to decrement count 1, count 1 1 and count 2 2. Like why I have written so much of code without explaining anything to you is because uh I have already mentioned you. Please go through the majority element 1, question number 169. I have explained why we are using two variables, why we are using count and elements. Now this particular question is the upgradation of that particular part. In this particular problem statement, we have used count 1 and count 2, element 1 and element 2 respectively. Count 1 is the count of or the frequency of element 1 and count 2 is the frequency of element 2. Yes. Let us try to dry run it using this particular 323. All right. Yes. Our, let me call it C1 equals to, yes. Instead of directly writing it here, let me write the C1 equals to 0. Initially, the case C2 equals to 0 and element 1 and element 2 are also 0. Let's say, yeah. Let's say we are just saying that they are 0. They can't be, like int minimum is not 0. I'm just reducing the space so that it looks fine. Okay. Some of you, yes, अब आपको दिख रहा होगा. All right. And element 2 is also equals to 0. Yes. Okay. Now for the first iteration, what will be the case, Deepak? Like my element my current element will be 3. Yes, on the basis of that I'm going to check this for particular first if condition, that count of 1 equals to 0. Yes, count of 1 is equals to 0. Increase the count of 1, that means it will become 1. Count of 2 will still be 0. And update the element 1 to 3. Update the element 1 to current element. Yes. And element 2 will still be 0. All right. And for the second iteration, the current element will be 2. Is the count of 1 0? No, Deepak. Is the count of 2 0? Yes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make count of 1 as 1 because there is no change in this, but I'll update count of 2 to 1, and element 1 is still 3, and element 2 will become what, 2. Yes. And for the third iteration, what I'm going to check is count of 0 equals to 0, count of 1 equals to 0, no. Count of 2 equals to 0, no. Then element 1 equals to nums of 5. Yes. Element 1, the current element is 3. Current element is 3 and element 1 is equals to nums of 5. That means element 1 is equals to current element. In that case we are going to increase the count. Count will become 2. uh, Count 1 will become 2. Yes. And count 2 will be 1, and current element, no need to update the current element as it will be same. No need to update the current element 2. It will be 3. Yes. So it is a very small dry run for a small test case. I want a big one so that I can explain you more. How can I get that? Like, let's say, let me add something to it. Let's say what happens is there is a condition that occurs, like after degradation continuous checking, like this. Let's say this, if this is the case, Let me convert this to 7. If this is the case, then for the 5, for this particular 5 element, this if condition will not work, this else if condition will not work, these two else if conditions will also not work, then a decrement in count 1 and count 2 will happen, and the count 2 will become 0 and count 1 will become 1. Eventually count 2 is 0. All right, let's say the upcoming next element is what, is 3. Yes. If the upcoming next element is 3, then what will be the status in the next element? I'll write it down so that me and you are on the same page. Current element will be 5. Yes. And the count of 1 will be what? Reduce, because no if condition will run and only the else condition will run, that will reduce the count and it will become 1, and this will reduce to 0, and element 1, no need to update the element 1 and element 2. All right. Yes, I think here I am. Okay, okay, why I have updated this? It should be 2. Yes. All right. All right. So this is the case, but in the fifth iteration there will be a confusion. Let us remove 7 and 8. No need to have 7 and 8 right now. There is a confusion. Like, what will be the confusion? The current element will be 3. All okay. uh the current element is 3, but our count 1 is not 0. Our count 2 is 0. All right. What it will do is, it will not look up to any other else if condition, and it will just increase the count and set element 2 to nums of 5, which is not the right case. Instead of doing this, we have to check, like, okay, our current element 1 is equals to nums of 5, so we have to increase count 1. But instead of doing that, it is updating count of 2. Are you getting what I'm trying to convey? Is to make sure that this thing does not happen, what we need to do is, we need to check, like, count of 1 is equals to 0, and it should be, like, it should be what, like, the nums of I should be not equal to element 2. And same for the other count 2 condition, that nums of I, I'm sorry, nums of I should not be equal to element 1. This is the condition that I'm talking about. Like, here now, if I'll check, like, count of 1 is equals to 0, no, but count of 2 is equals to 0, but nums of I is not, nums of I is equals to elements 1, so it will not run the cells of condition, it will run the cells of condition and increase the count. Okay, so eventually we'll have this count of 1 will be 2, and count of 2 will be still 0, element 1 will be 3, and will be element 2 will be 2. All right. So this is the case. Now we have got our element and element 1 and element 2. We just need to do one thing. Like, what we can do is, we can have a confirmation, like, whether we are on right path or not. So what we are going to do is, confirmation for the code itself. Yes. So this is the end of for loop. Yes. After exiting out from the for loop, I am going to update my count 1 to 0 and count 2 to 0. Yes. And then I'm going to iterate again, I less than n I plus plus, just to have the count of the elements. Like, if my current element, um, that is nums of I, is equals to element 1, in that case increase the count 1 1. Eh, and like, I should write it more beautifully. Count 1 plus plus, and else if nums of I is, is equals to element of 2, then I should do count plus plus. Yes, count 2 plus plus. This is the case. Now I'll declare a vector, because we need to return the vector only if my count of 1 is greater than n by 3. In that case, I'll make sure that it should be there in my answer. So I'll push element 1, and if I'll also check if count of 2 is greater than, it should be n by 3, because yes, if it is n greater than n by 3, then in that case I'll put my element 2 in the answer and I'll return answer. So this is how it is going to work. Let me run this and make sure that it should work. Ah, some error that has occurred and it says I don't know what is element. Element क्यों होता है? I don't know. So like what should I do is I should click on submit. जल्दी जल्दी ढूंढो के होने लगी शाम रे, जाने कहाँ मेरा जिगर गया जी, अभी अभी यहीं था किधर गया जी. So it has been submitted successfully. I think all of you have got the intuition and the code. We'll see you in some other video. Bye bye. Take care.